Hello and welcome to another episode of Senior Soundings. I'm your host, Gerry LePage, and we're really happy to have you along for this episode. And as far as having people along, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce you to our guest today, Irina Spivak, who is the Director of Senior Services at East Bay Community Action Program. Irina, welcome to Senior Soundings, and thanks for joining us.
Hi, Gerry, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a real delight, and having come from Senior Services Department myself, I think we have an awful lot in common, but let's just launch right into the concept of senior services. What would be the most important aspect of the Senior Services Department? What is the most important service that they provide?
Everything is pretty important, but I'm thinking what would be the best way to express what is that we do. And I would say that we coordinate, determine eligibility, and case manage services for people aged 65 and older that help them remain independent in the community, in their homes, and help them retain their Medicaid eligibility.
I see, I understand. So case management is really, that seems to be the key aspect of this, right? Because that, in my mind at least, represents a really large category of services. So obviously it would start with some kind of an evaluation process, and then you get into the nuts and bolts, the actual distinctive aspects that each person presents uniquely. But you're basically doing some kind of an evaluation in terms of what? The person's abilities, or what kind of assistance they need to remain at home. And there must be some element of factoring in what the person is able to afford as far as the cost of care at home. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that? Let's start with the finances, for instance. There are financial assistance programs for seniors who need home care, correct?
This is more of I would define it as a state subsidy for home care, because the cost of private pay home care, there's plenty of companies in the market that have, that employ CNAs that can come over to the house and help with personal care needs, homemaking needs, some medication reminders. That is available, but the cost of those services can get up to $40 an hour and more. So for elders that are up to a certain level of income, it's 250% federal poverty rate, which we can determine. It's actually determined by, of course, federally, and then we know what those numbers are. Those elders that are at 250% of federal poverty rate and less, they're eligible for a subsidy provided by the state, and that reduces the cost of home care services to, depending on the income, either $4.50 an hour or $7.50 an hour. It
That's
subsidizes.
A substantial savings, though, considering you were saying $40 an hour, but if a person qualifies for the financial assistance, they might pay as little as $4.50 an hour?
That's correct. And additional information that I would like to address is the copay is, of course, valid for the cost share program. If a person is eligible for Medicaid, they don't need to pay for their home care at all.
I see. So there are two financial assistance programs then. One is called cost share, and that is where the person will have a share of the cost, although it's not a considerable share. For instance, if we just do a little bit of simple arithmetic, someone who wants, say, 6 hours of care in a week, at $40 an hour, that's $240 a week, which, you know, most retirees are not going to be able to afford that. But at $7.50 an hour, 6 hours a week is $45 a week, so that's quite a bit less.
Yeah, and that can help people remain living independently in their homes, because sometimes 6 hours, 10 hours is all they need. There is a limitation on the subsidy. It does subsidize up to 20 hours a week.
Okay.
So that's the time limit.
And Irina, do you know anything about what is the source of that financial assistance, that subsidy from the state? Is that from state Medicaid funds, or is that some other source of income that is generated within the state, or do you have any awareness of that?
There's state and federal funding.
Okay.
And at this point, I cannot say with complete certainty which program is subsidized by which grants. But it's federal and state money that helps.
All right. But I think the main thrust is that if someone did not have that opportunity to remain at home with some in-home care, their only alternative, most of the time at least, would be to go into a nursing home, where the cost for the person's care in a nursing home is going to be, what is the rate now? It's about $9,000 or $10,000 or so per month, right, for a nursing home?
Yeah, it starts with $300 a day, I think.
Yeah, so if you think about that, $300 a day, as opposed to home care that is going to cost the state a couple of $100s a week, that's a significant savings to the state as well, to provide home care instead of nursing home care.
Yes, it's accurate. For our Medicaid clients, we also case manage the assisted living waiver. That the assisted living would come between living independently in the community and being in the nursing home level of care.
Right, that's a level of care in between independent and fully dependent.
Yes. Another service that is offered within those programs is adult day care. There's plenty of adult day care programs in the state. They're excellent. They provide medical oversight. They provide nutrition. They provide socialization. That is very, very, very important. They provide, there's activities, and they usually operate, they're open 7 days a week. The day program starts usually at 9 a.m., lasts till about 2 or 3 p.m. Caregivers can be reimbursed for transportation if they provide transportation for their loved ones to adult day care programs to and from. And this is also a wonderful option for people that still want to remain safely in their homes but need some oversight.
Right, right. So we've covered a little bit of the financial aspects in terms of your evaluation process. So let's assume now you have determined that a person is financially eligible for the cost share program or for the community waiver. So it looks like home care is definitely should be part of the plan for them. What is the next step? How do you know what kind of care the person needs?
It's a really good question, and we do some assessment when we screen the person over the phone. We ask, do you need help with personal care services? We collect initial demographics, and then we go and meet with you.
Okay, so is this like a home visit then? You're meeting the person in their home, which I would imagine is helpful too, right? Because the case manager needs to have a sense of the living environment, right?
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of other factors can come into play, such as if there's a hoarding issue, or if there's are other family members in the house who are caregivers, or whatever dynamics are going on there. So when I was doing case management, I recall we had something called the Uniform Client Assessment Tool, which was about a 20-page questionnaire that we would have to sit down and complete with the individual and their loved ones. And are you still using the EBCAP for your evaluations?
We're using a similar tool. It's more extensive.
It's more
up to
extensive.
40 pages at this
my
point.
goodness.
It's called Interi. It has about 380 or 390 questions.
Wow.
And it is used to, it's very comprehensive. It's used to assess the person's needs, the way, the level of performance of, really we go into details of functioning.
Right.
And really addresses all those questions and helps us, obviously, 400 questions, very comprehensive. And yes, being at home and seeing the client and seeing their family, seeing their supports, the home environment is very important.
Right.
During COVID, those things were done telephonically, and definitely it was lacking so much.
Of course,
This in-person interaction is very, very important for us. Also, as a part of the case management, it's a part of us getting to know the person.
Right.
And it's a part of us of building the narrative for you. And the care plans are person-centered. So it's geared at the client. Hi, what do you need? What are
Right.
your goals? Let's have a conversation.
Right. So that evaluation then, you mentioned how comprehensive it is. So there are, I guess, is it divided up into sections, like to evaluate like emotional, other signs or indicators of mental health or mental health concerns, physical. You mentioned performance as far as just being able to complete tasks. And then you need to evaluate the environment, the home environment, if there are safety issues or fall risk issues and the like.
Very important, yeah.
I guess, would you be looking to see, are you looking in the refrigerator, for instance, to see if this is a person living alone, for instance, are you looking to see what kinds of foods are they keeping in the fridge? Are they eating just TV dinners or other kinds of processed food that may not be the healthiest source of nutrition? How extensive is that evaluation?
So most topics that you mentioned, that they are included in this Interi assessment. And yes, there are sections that deal with mental health, with physical abilities. Goals are really, really important. Supports, what kinds of supports do you have? What do they do for you? As for the refrigerator, we work with the senior. The seniors are a partner. We are supporting the senior. They're making the decisions. They're living at home. We are inviting them to share information with us. The more we know, the better we can provide the plan that works individually for that person. So we won't usually look at the fridge.
Not without permission.
Without permission, yes. And we ask for permission to observe. We want to see maybe adaptive equipment. What do you have in the bathroom? With permission, yes. And case managers are very, very skilled in noticing the body language, in noticing the environment. Another importance of why we do it at home.
Right.
because we notice and we ask.
Good. All right. Well, now let's see here. We've talked about home care. We've talked a little bit about adult daycare. And as far as how to qualify for financial assistance, maybe we could get into a little bit more detail about that. Do you have even just like a ballpark figure of what could one's income be and still qualify? I mean, like the upper limit. What would be the upper limit of a person's or a couple's income to be able to qualify, say, for instance, for the cost share program?
It is a really good question, and before responding to that, I would like to separate the Medicaid members and the cost share program. For people that have Medicaid, that have applied for Medicaid, this assessment is done by the state.
Okay.
They determine, they have the income guidelines, they have the asset guidelines, they determine Medicaid eligibility, and they determine the long-term community services and supports waiver eligibility. This, and here, if you are a Medicaid member and you need home care, I would encourage you to call not EBCAP, not our office, but rather call the state, because they are the ones to complete that assessment, and they have the income guidelines.
All right.
As for the cost share program, and let me look at my little notes here. We look, if you're an unmarried single individual, we'll look at individual income. If your income is below $18,825 a year, and we're looking at gross income, then you qualify for level 1 cost share program, and your copay will be $4.50 an hour.
For up to 20 hours a week.
Up to 20 hours a week. And your copay for adult daycare would be $7 a day.
Wow. Okay.
And in the cost share program, you can do both. You can do both adult daycare and home care.
All right.
Combine that. If your income as an individual is between $18,825 a year and $37,650 a year, then your copay for those 20 hours a week would be $7.50 an hour, and the copay for the adult daycare is $15 a day.
Okay. So that's, you said 37,000 and some change. That's over $3,000 a month. Which is a pretty decent income for a person, especially living alone. So that seems to be a pretty generous break point, if you will, so that the cost share savings program can apply to a lot of people.
Yes, and definitely I think there's not enough exposure to the availability of this program in the state, and I would like to bring that to the seniors and the caregivers and the families. This program is available. I do want to mention the income guidelines for couples. To qualify for a cost share program, if you're married, the income cutoff for a couple is $51,100 a year, and if you make as a couple below $25,550 a year, then it's the lower tier copay for $450 and $7 for ADC.
Okay. So, those are pretty, for the most part, generous benchmarks. So a lot of people, the conclusion I think we can draw from what you've been telling us is that a lot of people can qualify to get home care and to get financial assistance to pay for the home care. So for people who are struggling with a loved one who is maybe having some difficulty with some ordinary day-to-day tasks, or needs a little bit more assistance or supervision. If you're concerned about the cost involved, the cost share program is certainly something to look into. And of course, if your loved one qualifies for Medicaid, then they could actually get home care and adult daycare at no cost to them. So that's definitely an issue worth looking into. So we've covered just really, I think, scratched the surface of this whole issue, because home care and evaluating a person's needs, that's really just a start, I think, right? Along the way, I know as you learn more about your client's particular circumstances, for instance, they seem very lonely and have no family, maybe just a few friends, or not even friends, but neighbors who might stop in to see if they need something from time to time. But so there are issues of companionship and loneliness and the like. How does the Senior Services Department assist with those kinds of concerns?
We recommend, we do recommend adult daycare as a great means to increase socialization, reduce loneliness, and definitely loneliness it's really isolating.
Sure.
It really reduces the well-being. So adult daycare would probably be the best program to socialize, to keep the spirits up, to get some medical oversight. This is great. Companionship services are not included in that service packet of home care services. So, of course, when the aide is in the house, there is some conversation. It does help. It does not completely solve the problem. We do encourage, we do consider, as I mentioned, we consider the elder our partner in this work.
Right.
The family is the main support always. We are the supplement. Our programs are the supplement. We can encourage, we can provide information. This is what we have. Sometimes there are certain events in senior centers. Local senior centers are a great resource for seniors. I really encourage finding out what's the phone number for your local senior center is, reaching out. There are programs there as well.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because my sense of adult day centers is that, as valuable a service as they provide, my sense is that the programming itself is geared more toward a population where there are some cognitive impairments, as opposed to like a senior center where most of the people who attend events or whatever goings on at the senior centers are not suffering from the same level of cognitive impairments as someone at an adult day center.
I would say that adult day centers are definitely a more supportive environment. Definitely provide more oversight, more supports. And as you mentioned, the local senior center, not to confuse with adult day health, right? They are offering, I would say, that would expect more independence from
the
a person that attends.
From the participants, right.
Yeah. And this is great, and I think it just keeps you going.
Well, that's definitely an important aspect. I think we saw during COVID, for instance, how isolation really affected a lot of people in very negative ways. Not even just seniors. I think everyone of any age was affected by that sense of isolation that the COVID pandemic caused. And of course, for people who are already kind of on the fringe in terms of who they have in their life, loved ones, friends, even neighbors, that circle of contacts continues to diminish as we grow older. So having a social component to one's life clearly is an important aspect.
I feel that loneliness is the plague of the modern world. Unfortunately, we are, as humans, I don't think we're made to live that level of individualism that we have now. We are group creatures, right?
Sure.
And
community.
We are very much so, and we need that community. And it used to surround us in hundreds and thousands years ago. It used to surround us. Right now, we need to look for it, but it's still very important to maintain. And one thing that I feel that we've been losing a little bit is a sense of elderhood versus old age. Right. And I think senior centers and looking for that community and increasing the awareness of younger generations and of the supports that there's so much wisdom in this age. There's so much knowledge. There's so much we can receive just by even looking at the picture on the wall and asking questions about it, giving meaning. The person that is in front of me has lived a long life, has had a lot of things in their life that they've experienced. And they're an elder. They're not a person over the age of 65 just sitting there.
Yes, and in so many cultures, even today, the term elder is a term of great respect. And I have to say, and I've said it before on this program, I never understood why so many of these agencies, elder services departments, felt they needed to make a change to, the Department of Aging Well, or, some other thing that is seen to be less controversial. But like I say, in my opinion, elders is a term of respect, and that's really a fine way to refer to our elder friends. Unfortunately, Irina, we are out of time for this portion of the presentation, but I would love for you to come back, and we have a lot more to talk about, East Bay Community Action Program Senior Services. For now, we're all finished, but I do welcome you to come back. Thank you, Irina, for joining us.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It's my pleasure.
Very welcome. Join us again for another episode of Senior Soundings.